Hello, everyone. As was said, our office name is Kosmos, and I'm one of the 3 founding partners, Leonid, Slonimskiy, Artyom Kitaev, and Nikolai Martynov. And as said, we have, in the last, since we started our office, we have moved more than 10 times, and currently our locations is Switzerland, Austria, Moscow, and New York. But that may change in the following years. And because of this, we're located in different locations, so mostly our working condition is through Skype and WhatsApp, and we collaborate virtually, although we have certain working spaces. And today I would like to present you several of our projects, as well as the work of our students, because we're involved in teaching. The first project I would like to present you today is on the, in Moscow, in Gorky Park. There's a big museum of contemporary art, which is called Garage, which was designed by Raum Kolkhoz. But before this museum has came to this park, they wanted to make a temporary museum to announce their presence in the park, and they have made a competition for young architects, which we were lucky to build. And the project was very time constrained, and we had only 5 weeks from the end of competition to realization. So we started, and the budget was quite tight. So we started to think about, there's a topic which inspires us a lot, is a temporary infrastructural architecture. So we took as a reference the material which is called debris netting from the traditional scaffoldings, and decided to use it in order to wrap a series of a program for the museum, which was required by the client. So it's a different typology of spaces, very similar to the Japanese house, which was shown today by Tato architects, but with an additional layer of this temporary material, which allowed us, without any complex digital technology, to create a curvy, let's say, the mix between angular and curvy architecture, also with creating different typologies of spaces, which were good for different exhibitions. A very tall space with an open roof, a square space, an elongated space, and so on. And this is the location of the cubes were determined by the location of the trees, because obviously this temporary museum wouldn't be allowed to cut any trees in the park. So that's how it looked in the locations. And inside you can see the different spatial qualities which were achieved by the double layer of this net, and the sequence of space which allowed people to pass from one room to another through a layer of gravel, which created also let's say, an acoustic change of program. And this is the tallest cube where people could perform the music. And that's how these 2 layers of this net were creating this moire effect, but still, let's say, softly hugging the local trees and bushes. The next project, which was important in our practice, is Emma space, which was a transformation of an old factory which was abandoned in the center of the city. And again, the same situation of reflecting upon the, let's say, quite low budget and, let's say, restraints from the client side, gave us an idea that was a first impression of our project, that we shouldn't work within the buildings which are complicated technically and budget-wise to repair, but we should focus in the interstitial spaces to create, let's say, inner rooms and to activate roofs and different platforms. And in order to do so, here is a conceptual model where we kind of switched off. We deleted all the built volumes of this factory, and we just focused on the public spaces. So the main idea was to activate the public space. And in order to do so, we created a total, we're quite fans of total interiors, total space impressions. So it was a total installation which was wrapped in a foil. And again, we used the infrastructural material, which is often not noticed by architects. It's the material which insulation foil, which you use to wrap the ductworks. And we created this kind of retrofuturistic image of this factory. And in order to zone the spaces, we have suspended the so-called like a suspension sky with different regimes of use. It could be darker, lighter. There was dynamics which proposed, which gave music. And this space was for lectures, public talks, parties, art installations, and so on. And another important element was this peel or moon or a circle, whatever you call it. It had a very important presence there. And basically the idea of this element that was to subdivide our space from the quite an ugly office building which was behind, but with a minimum of means, not to build a wall or something to obstruct the view. So we proposed this very, very kind of striking white disc. And the idea was to cover it with with a special paint which was reflecting the light in order that it looks more surreal, more kind of theatrical and unrealistic on the pictures and in life than it actually is. And for the event of the opening, we also proposed that the people also became the part of this installation. A third project which I would like to show you today is called Airbox, and this is, we mostly, as you can see, mostly in our practice, we do public buildings. We almost have never done a private interior or a private house. So this was also, the location is a Gorky Park, which is a very prominent Moscow location, like the central park of Moscow. And actually, next to our first project, so this is the Garage Museum by Kolkhoz, which I have told you before. And this is the location of a new sportive center. So Nike, the sports brand, decided to, together with the park and with the Ministry of Sport and Culture, decided to make an open competition to build, let's say, a free of charge a non-profit sports center, but it would be sponsored by Nike, so there's no shop, no, like, they don't sell shoes there, but they provided different programs, and a couple of years ago we won this competition, and our initial idea was to make, let's say, a multifunctional box which had different flaps which would serve different functions. So on one side it will be billboard symbolizing itself, on another side the score, third flap would be allocated that people can climb on it and also access the roof, and there will be a canopy in order to host the running events before they start. And as I said, we are now developing the research about infrastructural temporary architecture, which we call texture, basically without archi. And basically one of the main inspirations here was the billboard, but the billboard without its, let's say, commercial function, but the billboard to itself, which just functions as a pure structure. And this is how finally the project looked like. And it's kind of a transparent membrane which allows people to see everything what happens inside. Inside there is a showers, a hall for fitness, hall for events, toilets, and all the things which allow you to, after, go to the either basketball field, which is located here, or to the football field, or to other facilities in the back, or to go to the rooftop where they do yoga sessions. And basically, this is the other part of the building. As you can see, this grid allowed us to completely integrate the building with the park, and also to we call it kind of a naked building. So here you can see all the internal installations of this technical room, and also all the ducts are outside, so they're completely visible and they're playing as a part of the building. That's how the building looks during the day. It also creates quite beautiful shadows and interacts with the surroundings. This building was built for the World Championship of Football. That's why it was a very big opening event. And that's how it looks during the winter. And I would like to also speak a couple of words about interior design, because for us it was important, this transparency and the idea that it completely blends with the park. So here you can see that this is the main fitness hall, but occupied by the journalists. So it's quite not such a big space, but nowadays people play football there, or do yoga, or do stretching and so on. But here you can see how the building through the partition, which can be removed, and through big mirror surfaces and through semi-transparent elements, it kind of blends in, so you kind of lose the understanding where does the building end and where the park finishes. And inside the building is based on two strong axes. One, so this is the nexus when you exit the locker rooms, the showers, and you are on the mode to go out. And basically this is why we use the same material as on the street, the red rubber, which kind of shows that all the public spaces, they are already preparing you to go to the sports activity. And as I have said already, we are, maybe this is our weakness, but we are quite fan of total interiors, which are not like a collages of spaces. So this was how the space of the locker rooms and toilets look like, and the internal spaces. So they're much more compressed, not transparent at all, and very intense. Another project so today I will speak about a couple of interior projects, and as I said, one other project with the same kind of idea of this totality was, we call it Dar Garden, and it was done for an airport. we're doing quite a lot of airport projects now, doing like an airport itself. So this is obviously not our airport. This was kind of a generic airport which invited us to do a lounge, a waiting lounge. And it was a competition again, and we started with a critique of the lounges, which are usually beige and gray and kind of this kind of comfortable interior. So we decided to be radical, and if we win, we win. If we not win, we not win. So we decided to reference The Isle of the Dead by Arnold Böcklin and to create a completely black interior with a garden inside. And strangely enough, we won, and it was like, let's say, we acted quite in a radical way. Unfortunately, now there's rumors that the client wants to paint it beige or brown because of the complaints of the passengers. Another project, which kind of now we're slowly moving to another type of architecture, it's temporary installations, art installations and workshops, is a pavilion which we did for Switzerland for Prague Quadriennale of Scenography and Spatial Design, and it reflected on our understanding of Switzerland as a country which has this kind of very idyllic, bucolic image, but actually it's pierced by diverse infrastructural elements, and that the question of tourism and why is basically what is this how to say, the contrast of we really like this image, the contrast of different necessities. So here you can see the cannon which is doing the artificial snow and the truck which is making it flat. So basically this quite a weird contrast. Or this is our favorite image of Rhone Glacier, which was covered with blankets in order not to melt, but basically it was just done so people can still visit the cave instead of closing it to the tourists and stopping this huge bus tourism. People decided to close it with the blankets. And obviously, familiar to the Swiss part of the hall here, of the auditorium here, is the Swiss Bauprofil. It's this democratic installations which Swiss use in order to build new buildings. And we have created a movable installation which moves according to when people come to it. There are sensors, and basically this installation slowly starts to melt. And there is basically 3 layers. The layers of presence of people with motors which are bringing up and down this blanket, and a passive kind of place where you can observe the space, sitting like in a kind of barred by this bar, and the digital part, which is the screen which takes all the data from all the users, and basically this is how this constantly changing landscape looked. It's quite a complex project. I will not go into details due to the time. And the project which Nicole has already announced is the public spaces. I will be very, very short about it. It was a project for Basel where we lived and worked for 5 years in Herzegovina. And after we decided to leave the city, we decided to make kind of a tribute project to it. And we started to think, what is the problem of the public space in Basel? And we realized that actually it's very, very well designed, and maybe the only problem is the too much regulation. So we started to find the possibilities of new usage, of new regimes of usage of these public spaces. It is, and we have proposed 6 projects. I will present today 3. One of them was already, Nicole said, it's an old medieval river, which is underground Basel. It's quite clean, but completely, let's say, dead. Dead in terms of public usage. People go there for excursions, but it just looks like this. And we proposed to transform it into underground botanical garden, which people can use during the cold season to navigate through the city. And this was, obviously, all these proposals were speculative and more to raise the debate than that they were not realistic. A second project was referencing the famous Basel ferry. There's 4 traditional ferries, and we proposed, and this is a piece of infrastructure which just moves people from one side of the river to another, and we proposed to make a free art gallery which will be floating and kind of makes, it's the fifth project, and will give time for art performances during Art Basel, but will also work as a piece of infrastructure. And the last, which I will present today, is the therme, the warm therme in the traditional Basel fountains, which just requires to warm up the water. Funny enough, we found out that some hippies were already doing this project when we presented it in Basel. And to finish, I would like to present a work of, let's say, our students or our, let's say, academical practical works. So it's not theoretical, it's mostly teaching through doing. So currently I'm a professor in the same type of university, but in Geneva. It's called HED. And in our practice, we have taught also in Bangkok, Royal University, and in many workshops. So currently, my students are here. This is a beautiful building where I hope the next symposium will be somehow, we already discussed with the organizers, these two schools will join forces, hopefully. And basically, I will just present you a couple of projects which were done and built by students and by the faculty. This is the latest. It was opened a week ago. It was a fashion show, which refers to the famous diving tower in Geneva, and it kind of references the fact that students go out to their like life as if they're diving from this diving tower. This was basically always it's a competition of students, and the one which is winning, we build it together with the students. So this was a fashion show. Another project which we did in Arles with our students was a workshop. Here you can see the famous Frank Gehry Tower, and we were given a very beautiful site in the center of the city where actually nothing could be seen. So the students and us, we proposed this kind of periscopes, a series of little towers, which will allow you to, while being in this enclosed ancient terrace, to look actually what's happening back, and it kind of tries to be in the rhyme together with an old ugly house which was there and with a new ugly Frank Gehry Tower, and in the end kind of bringing them together. And this is how it looked from inside. And we also, as our colleagues also many showed, that we also try to work with models with students, because we think that when the project is not realized, then you have at least something physical. So we do quite lots of models and in different scales with them, although in our practice, we never have time to do models because of the pressing time and the client restrictions. So we kind of, here is our nice time when we can make them. And some projects of interior design, this is for the school. So this was a bar proposed by one of the students, and soon we will build it. This is a project for University of Physics and Chemistry in Geneva. Another proposal for the fashion show, which was called the, let's say, the fashion show as a circus or as a theater. And another funny example which I put today, because I have seen this space, and one student, she proposed to make a total installation of also a fashion catwalk in the like a swimming pool, and the topography. And then also with students we do, let's say, one like big scale installation. So this one, for instance, was dedicated to bars, and these students, they proposed to create, let's say, a whole ritual that you have to climb up the stair, kind of kill or ritually kill an orange. Then the juice would go down this gutter and will give you, by the time when it comes, there is quite a very shallow angle, so by the time when it comes, you will get a glass of fresh juice. And another project was in France, where the students proposed to observe a very beautiful Roman villa, and it also has to do with drinks. So here, because I quite like to drink and I'm quite interested in this typology, so many of the fun projects we do with students, they're dedicated to pubs, bars, because I also think it's not only about drinking, it's about, like you were explaining before, it's like eating, smoking, cigarette, it's a collective activity. So basically here, in order to see this beautiful ancient villa, they have created a very long installation, which had like a little gap, and you would enter with the glass, and you would travel all through the space with this glass, until you finish in the end, then you will be served to drink, but you're kind of locked with an empty glass, and you would go down to like an interest in like frescoes, you would look up to some paintings, and so on. So this was kind of both educational in a very dogmatic way, but also a bit fun. This is us with the students there, and some other installations we built, and you can see one important thing, we think that these workshops, they are kind of the testing grounds for later projects. So this was built several years before Nike as our first kind of self-built project, but you can obviously see the reference. Some other projects which were done in a smaller scale, like this one with Emma, and some artificial mountains. And to finish the lecture, again, as I say, we think that these workshops, sometimes fun, relaxed and naive, they also bring some ideas which we can put into, let's say, big or like real architecture. So for instance, this was a workshop with students where we just found some kind of funny old trampoline and used it as a dome here. And this is a competition which we won, but it was unfortunately not built for a University of Techniques, Mechanics, and Physics, a very big international competition. So this is how we transfer the knowledge. And here I have to stop. Thank you very much.